Yeah, they claim they can teach or they can transform tigers or wild animals. Yeah. So it's kind of like a new approach.
So, Huaiyu, it's great to see you here at Foguangshan. And let me ask you about your research, your recent research. So you published 2 books, a big feat for all of us, because we take 5, 10, 20 years to write one book, and you did 2 of them immediately. And you're already ready to come out with the next one, right? Can you tell us about these books? What are they about?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I have been working on these topics for a while. Actually, I published my animal book in Chinese actually in 2012, quite a while ago.
Okay.
And so I met some friends in the international academic community, and they asked me why don't you write something in English so we can probably use it in our classroom.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a big reason why I write a book in English later. So I published 2 books last year, and the first one is In the Land of Tigers and Snakes, Living with Animals in Medieval Chinese Religions. And the other one is Animals and Plants in Chinese Science and Religions. When I signed the contract, before I signed the contract, with the publisher, actually I got inquiries, and also I tried to publish actually one book with a publisher. So I got my first book, the contract. So I published it with Columbia University Press, and another publisher in London actually asked me about if I have other stuff. I do have some articles, and I couldn't incorporate them into my first book.
Okay.
So, but they are also interested in it, and also I have a couple of articles on plants. So that's kind of like how I put them together for the second book. The first book is quite different from my Chinese book actually. The 2 chapters actually revised from my previous book based on the Chinese version, but a little bit revised and modified. But my book In the Land of Tigers and Snakes. Also, it's actually kind of like focusing on the relations among 4. I call the kind of power agents, or some kind of like how they interact with each other in the medieval period, like religious communities, and animals, and local community, and the state. What I'm saying is that I think the state, religious community like Buddhist community, Daoist community, and local community actually they learn from each other and then compete with each other over the attitudes and policy and ritual of dealing with animals, how they deal with, how they handle animals. Yeah. So, for example, like when I read the materials, I found they kind of like share a similar discourse, like talking about their encounters between humans and animals. So my basic sense is that in the medieval period, because the increase of population in China and also the developmental economy and society, so Chinese immigrants like marched to south and also other places, and so there was kind of conflict between humans and animals.
Right.
So you have to deal with them. So they use some kind of terms, 虎豹 or 虎难, the disaster of tigers, the violence of tigers, that kind of thing. So you can see these terms actually appearing in almost like various genres of texts, Buddhist, Daoist texts, and so they all use this kind of term. So they have to develop a set of like doctrines and rituals dealing with so-called the violence of tigers, that kind of thing. Yeah. And
but this kind of confrontation with animals happens with humans kind of taking over territories.
Right,
that
right,
are-
territories. Yeah,
Yeah.
They
So
march
it's-
to the
It's conquest.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, territory of like tigers and other wild animals. Yeah, so I try to provide the kind of like this different perspective, on Buddhist approach to animals.
Right.
I mean, traditionally, I think the conventional scholarship actually has a lot of discussions on like vegetarianism, stuff like that, non-violence towards animals, like
Yeah.
in Buddhism or Taoism. But I think in the medieval period of Buddhism and Taoism, both they try to take over, or try to expand
Yes.
the their in the larger environment, and also attract the local followers, and they develop kind of like similar but different approaches from the state,
Right. Yeah.
from the local government, and also local community. But for example, like some local communities actually they sacrifice the humans to the wild animals.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's kind of like a cult, for some places, and then the Buddhist and Daoist priests, let's say,
Yeah.
move in, and they told the local community, okay, we can pacify tigers, we can tame them, so we can perform like rituals, to convert them, so we don't have to sacrifice humans, or we don't have to kill them.
Right.
So this kind of like a new approach. But
you need the human soul for that, or human flesh.
no, I mean, yeah, local community, they their own, I mean, kind of like a traditional practice is like to sacrifice flesh, but Buddhist and Daoist, no, they perform rituals. They claim,
really?
Yeah, they claim they perform rituals, or they can teach, or they can transform tigers or wild animals. Yeah, it's kind of like a new approach. Yeah, and different from the local community, and also different from the state. Because the state also, the state has two approaches. One is like we call the legalist, 法家.
Yeah.
So they reward like money or some other stuff to the local hunters to hunt down wild beasts. Another approach is the Confucian ideology. They claim that they can use virtuous governance, to convert or transform the local the wild beasts, that kind of thing. So
That's very interesting, because that's what they say about the barbarians, right? Also,
exactly, yeah, exactly. It's kind of like an
in the Tongdian and
unruly
Yeah.
objects, for the authority. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Buddhist and the Taoist community also regard this uncharted, sort of like uncharted territory, as a like unruly area, or not a place ruled by Dharma, or by the way, right? Taoist way or Buddhist Dharma. So they try to expand Buddhist Dharma and the Taoist way to this wilderness area by conquering animals, beasts, or transforming them, converting them.
Wow, fascinating.
Yeah.
And what about your new book?
Yeah, my new book is sort of product combining my previous interest in Nestorianism and
So big jump here.
right.
From animals
I did a MA thesis at
Yeah.
Beijing University, but I haven't actually touched on Nestorianism for a while. But still, I keep contact with a lot of scholars in the field. And then I do Buddhism later, in the United States. So I try to, I do have some ideas about how these religions encountered on the Silk Road. So my new book will be talking about sort of some shared, let's say, ideas and terms, and also rituals by Buddhism, Taoism, and Christianity together. My basic idea is that if we look at the Chinese texts in Buddhism, Daoism, Nestorianism, actually they use some similar terms. I suppose they're like in some urban areas like Dunhuang and Chang'an, especially. I think there's some sort of I call a shared textual community. What I'm saying is that
Right.
Buddhist priests, Buddhist monks, Taoist priests, and Christian priests actually they read maybe some kind of common texts together. At least they know each other. They know like today we all read Michel Foucault. We all read Emile Durkheim, Max Weber. Even you are doing literature or you're doing philosophy, but social sciences, but you still read these kind of shared common texts. We all use same term like power, since stuff like that, or manuscripts. Yeah. So I suppose they probably they have some kind of shared, and also they have to deal with the court, the state power. So I think they have some similar strategies. Sometimes they learn from each other, but they are different. So I try to figure out, how they. When I read the primary sources, I try to figure out how they talk about their state, religion, state or church relations, and how they deal with the state, and also the sciences, astronomy especially, because Buddhist, Taoist, and Jingjiao priests, they're all involved in Sitianjian, the Bureau of Astronomy.
Yeah.
In the Tang Dynasty, for example. So they take turns actually to serve as an officer in this. So they create their or sometimes reform or modify their calendars for the state.
Yeah.
So I try to figure out what kind of how they create these kind of shared communities. They live in these kind of shared communities politically, ritually, scientifically,
Right.
religiously. Yeah. So that's kind of idea. Yeah.
And this is during the Tang Dynasty?
Mostly Tang Dynasty. Yeah, from late Northern dynasties to 5 dynasties, maybe to the 5 early Song dynasties. Yeah, I try to see the kind of the development, the evolution of the influence of these different religions.
Yeah.
And also Taoism. Taoism used to be, Taoist priests used to be in charge of the astronomy bureau actually in the Sui dynasty, for example.
Right.
Then in the Tang dynasty, Taoism kind of fade away, but Buddhists but sometimes it's the religion might not play a role. I find in the kind of the stage selection of these priests to serve in the bureau. So it's very interesting. Yeah. Anyway.
So that's very interesting again.
Yeah.
I remember your article. You wrote an article about some Jingjiao texts in Sogdian or something.
Right. Yeah. There's some texts. We now have both. Chinese and Sogdian. It's Gloria in Access is still.
Yes.
Yeah. Sanwei Mengdu Zan. That one. We found the Chinese version in Dunhuang. And then we have a fragment of the same text in Sogdian from Tuofan. Yeah,
that's quite amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah,
because you have that for Buddhist texts, but
right.
Yeah, for Christian texts, it's interesting.
Yeah. And the Chinese version actually uses a lot of terms from Buddhist texts and also very similar to some phrases actually in Taoist texts.
Yeah.
So because you see in the Western market of Chang'an, Buddhist, Taoists, and the Nestorians actually live together. Very close. They're living in a very close place.
That's true. There is no conflict, or not necessarily.
Right. Or they know each other. I think they probably hang out with each other. Not like a collaboration between Adam, the Nestorian priest, and Buddhist monk, Bo-Re, right? But they know each other. Taoist priests also live nearby, so they know each other. I think they are well aware of probably the texts. So they also they probably read some texts like at least I guess 道德经 maybe they all use some phrases in 道德经.
Yeah, well, if they're if they know Chinese, written
Right,
Chinese,
right.
they would have read texts
Right.
in written Chinese.
Yeah.
At least the most important texts. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So they know each other and they learn from each other, sort of, I believe. But of course, they have their own interpretations, on these ideas and texts. So.
Very interesting. All right. So, thank you very much for
Thank you,
all this.
Yeah, it's great to
it's
see
really
you.
interesting. It's very good to see you after a long time, but
Quite a while. But we see each other twice.
yeah, twice now.
Already
Yeah. In
3
recent.
months.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
All right. Well, see you around then.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.